Okay, so uh, apologies for the image. It looks a bit like a demon or something. And this video is going to be about psychosis. So it's actually just a fire. The flames just went out as I clicked record. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put some more fuel on there, but you know, always good to take a few deep breaths and exhale, whether it's into a fire or not. Yeah, so psychosis. I'm guessing if you clicked into this video, you might have some experience with it, whether your own, someone you know, or going through something right now, or have recovered, or is seeing someone else going through something, or recovering, or getting worse, maybe, or yeah, it's difficult stuff, but it's okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk about my own experience. Hopefully, you can give yourself a few minutes to just listen and have a break from life. And yeah, so I'm 36 years old. I'm from a country in the northwest of Europe. You might be able to guess by my accent. And I'm not there at the moment. That's another story. But yeah, I think I was 19 when I had my first severe psychotic episode. I'd had multiple bouts of paranoia and delusions, mostly sort of cannabis and drug induced episodes. Sort of taking the wrong drugs at the wrong time with the wrong people, sort of a thing. Overdoing it on the cannabis a lot at a fairly young age. You're going to hear this a lot from people dealing with psychosis, but I'm going to try and take the story to a positive place. That's what I really hope for people, dealing with psychosis, whether it's yourself or a loved one, or, even if you're a healthcare professional caring for people with psychosis, that it's not all doom and gloom, that even severe cases and rough things that people can be going through, there is a way to get back to normal and to manage things, and yeah, I suppose being able to identify that it is sort of psychosis that's happening as well is sort of one of the main things, is to, if you do have that little shred of sanity somewhere in there, that that you can tell yourself that this isn't right, and yeah, just hold on to that shred of sanity. That's all you need to do. Be stubborn, even in if you're convinced of all sorts of things that may appear harmful, or like threatening, or things, that make you feel like life is never going to improve, or that, the end is near, or bad things are imminent, or anything like that. There's still your identity. It's you that's witnessing that, and that's all the sanity you need. So just hang on to yourself, and you'll get through it, or you can get through it. So yeah, I was 19 and I had my first full psychotic episode. Wasn't a long one, but it really shook me up. Um, I was in Australia, aged 19, travelling, drinking, smoking weed, taking ecstasy, living in really substandard conditions with loads of other people my age and slightly older, doing the same thing, for people from all over the world, drinking every night, going out working in 35-degree heat during the day, being dehydrated, not getting paid much money or any money sometimes, not having like proper money for food, but we always seem to manage to be able to get enough alcohol or weed to pass around and stuff like that. But yeah, about 6 weeks of that. It just really took its toll on me, and one night I just snapped and I went to what I would call sort of purgatory state, where I thought my assassination was imminent. And yeah, it just I smoked some really strong hash oil or something like that. Something I wasn't expecting. I was expecting a bong of weed, a normal hit, and I think from what I can remember, there was talk of hash oil going around, which is super potent stuff, high THC and all that, and I just wasn't prepared for that. And yeah, I went over the edge, and I thought I could see snipers in windows, and I thought that people were coming after me in their cars. I thought all the people I had become friends with had turned against me, and yeah, really, really felt like my life was in imminent danger. Tried calming down multiple times, but it just escalated and just got worse and worse. And I eventually ran out into the street, and it was in so much fear that I was curled into the fetal position in the middle of the road, main street at, I don't know, 11 or 12 at night, something like that, thinking I could see snipers in windows. And yeah, eventually the police actually came and collected me, and it became like this scene from Clockwork Orange where the police have the main guy in the car, and he thinks he's going somewhere, and then they end up bringing him to like the forest and torturing him, waterboarding him, and things like that. I thought that's what was going to happen. They're like, you'll be fine, we're bringing you to the hospital. And I was not trusting them at all, but I was paralysed with fear, I was just about able to sort of comply with their wishes, and in hindsight, I hadn't really thought about it till now, but like, fair play to those people. I think it was two, maybe three. There was two at least, anyway. I was sat in the back of the car, and then they were like, "No, look, we're bringing you to the hospital. There it is." And I could see the hospital building, all the lights. I could see the sort of rear entrance where accident and emergency is, where the ambulances pull up and bring people into the hospital. I could see that clearly in a sort of a car park. And then the police car just kept driving past the entrance. And then I started to get really terrified again. I was like, they were just playing with me this whole time. They're taking me away to kill me or whatever. But they did actually turn down into like an underground car park and brought me in up a stairs to that accident and emergency area. And yeah, just absolutely just crippled with fear, just unable to run away, unable to get my thoughts across. And I was met with some doctors and nurses and stuff like that, and they were convinced I was I'd been on like a crystal meth binge. Crystal meth is in that part of Australia is pretty common, and I'm sure they've seen a lot of people in like a sort of a meth psychosis. But no, I was like, no, just cannabis is all I've had this time anyway. And they didn't believe me, and then gave me some Valium. and I eventually started to calm down, and I fell asleep. Uh, and I woke up the next day there in the hospital. I had no shoes. I had run out of the hostel initially with no shoes on. such was the such was the fear, you know. Um, so yeah, nobody said anything to me. Well, I can't remember actually. I can't remember speaking to anyone and being like, "Can I go?" or uh, don't remember signing out or being checked by anyone. Or I think, yeah, that bit's a bit hazy. Um, but as far as I know, I just walked out of there with no shoes on and found my way back to the hostel. It wasn't really that far. And yeah, all the people who I thought were planning to kill me the night before were all there, just going about their lives. My roommate was hungover. A couple of the other guys who I'd become friends with, they were like, "What the hell happened to you?" And I just remember thinking, I don't. I said to him, I don't know what's real anymore and what isn't. I have to get out of here. And so what did I do? I booked a train, and yeah, I just packed up my stuff. I owed rent. Didn't say goodbye to anyone. I just wanted to get out of that place, that horrible substandard living condition hostel full of drunk people and all the rest of it. But the party was fun for a while, but yeah, it really took its toll. And so never received treatment. Just continued off on my way by myself, as I do when I'm traveling. I prefer to travel by myself, as I'm doing now. But yeah, just kept going. Had to go find work and all the rest of it. So that was 19. I'm 36 now. So what's that? 17 years ago. 18 years ago, maybe. A lifetime ago. And yeah, never got treatment. But until I turned, until 2023, so 3 years ago, was when I first got treatment. So I kind of had this thing on and off for 13 or 14 years. The drug use and alcohol and everything only escalated after that point. As much as I could afford, I was drinking and taking psychedelics for years after that. Yeah, from age 19, 20, 21, 22, all the way up, yeah, for the next sort of 4 or 5 years, I was like taking a lot of drugs, including some crystal meth for a short time, but lots of cannabis, lots of ecstasy, acid, all various types of psychedelics. And I was having sort of freakouts at parties and festivals and stuff like that, where I don't know, I stopped being wary at all, and I would just sort of take whatever drugs came along in sort of whatever situation, because I was seeing other people around me having so much fun dancing and, you know, experimenting with different drugs and having crazy conversations, and I just thought, yeah, if I just do loads of drugs, that I'll be on the same level and have as much fun as these people are seeming to have, you know. And I tried to get there for 2 or 3 years regularly, you know. Here's a bit of a different view for you. Sort of. That's a valley down there, full of people. All those little lights are houses in villages in the Himalayas. It's funny, I don't smoke cannabis anymore, but, you know, 500 meters in every direction from here, there's a lot of cannabis happening naturally. That's another story. But yeah, so all those years bamboozling my brain with various chemicals and getting into periods of depression, mostly from alcohol, and suicidal and all this stuff. Never really learning the lesson. Always going back to cannabis. Maybe getting off it for 3 months or 6 months. I think I was off it for a couple of years at one stage, but I was still a very suspicious, paranoid person without any drugs. But when the lockdowns came, that's when it really started to get out of control for me, and the anger really came with it. Before, mostly the paranoia, the psychotic symptoms and stuff, which would, maybe just go on for mostly the duration of the substance that I was on. If I smoked a joint, I'd be paranoid for a few hours, but would eventually calm down when the joint wore off. Or when I woke up the next day, I'd be fine. But yeah, eventually with the lockdowns, it just stopped going away. And yeah, and instead of a fear-based response, it became an anger-based response. Because I think before, maybe in life, I was able to just go to my job, or go and hang out with friends or whatever, go to a concert, whatever it was, and just life was going on as normal, and you kind of get lost in that, and be a bit crazy or be a bit weird or have paranoid conspiracy theory conversations with friends or all that kind of stuff. And life just went on as normal. So it was a way of managing it, I suppose, in that sort of long term, being busy, getting more cannabis or selling cannabis or paying off cannabis, all the negative things that come along with cannabis, it being illegal where I'm from. You have to deal with nefarious characters a lot of the time, and always looking for it and hunting it down. It's almost that sort of pushes the psychosis out of the way nearly, because you're so busy trying to maintain a level of being stoned, and everything else becomes sort of secondary to that after a while. But yeah, but the lockdowns, there was no run of the mill normal things going on. It was sort of sitting at home or living in a house with friends, which was nice. It was a nice break after having put in a few years of hard work in various types of jobs, and it was nice to get a break from that, have free time to just smoke more weed. But the more I started to learn about the nature of the lockdowns and that it was a big scam. I don't know what your position is on it, but in my humble view, it was a scam, and I don't say that because it's of any benefit to me. It's just the way I see it, the way a lot of people see it now. More and more people are seeing it for what it was, which was just a massive money-making power grab. And yeah, I refused to fall in line with the guidelines, really, or wearing masks, and I knew for sure I wasn't going to be taking a fucking experimental vaccine. But sadly, people around me, loved ones, family members, and pretty much most of humanity, for the most part, from what I can tell, were falling under the spell of it. The masquerade, the hypnosis, the mass psychosis. um, of that thing that went on for 2 years. And it was really hurting me to see people being so crippled by the fear of it, following the guidelines, losing their logic, losing their rationale, not being able to see through the hysteria and the media frenzy and look at things sort of logically, And it was funny because I'd always been a conspiracy theory person purely to sort of exercise my intellect in that way. I found that entertaining more than anything, But things with conspiracy theories, a lot of the time is a good percentage of them become conspiracy fact, or are conspiracy fact and become conspiracy revelations. And as non-seriously as I had taken conspiracy theories and stuff over the years, a lot of it did seem to be coming to fruition during that time. And now I guess we're in the sort of age of the Epstein files and all that, and people can really put two and two. Well, you should be able to put two and two together at this point. That the powerful people in the world are not doing things out of the interest of the ordinary public, of which you and I are members. It's about money and doing whatever the hell they want at the expense of whoever it takes, and they'll find a way to make money out of it as well. So, come hell or high water. So you see that all those people were involved, like, the WHO is like Bill Gates and a couple of other people. They dictated the guidelines all around the world, how governments were to handle this thing, And it turns out, Bill Gates was great friends with Epstein. I just have to use that as an example. There's so many more layers. I don't know where you are in your conspiracy rabbit holes, if at all. I'm not trying to worsen anyone's psychotic symptoms or whatever at the moment. I'm just like trying to go through things in sort of a step-by-step way. Please leave a comment if you feel like I'm all over the place, or like you want me to go into more detail on anything, my own personal symptoms or theories or whatever. But yeah. But one thing I've realised, having recovered from my psychosis, that happened, really started happening maybe about 6 months into the first lockdown, so 2020, heading towards the end of 2020. A year into it, by March of 2021, I'd had enough of my country, of seeing my close family and everything. They just weren't listening to anything I had to say, because everything I had to say sounded completely bananas and delusional and psychotic and non-applicable to the zeitgeist, or to the mainstream reality which was occurring at the time. It was like, yeah, maybe what you're saying is true, but sure, what can we do? The guidelines are in place and the rules are there, and we have to play by the rules, and we have to do what we're told, and all this and all that. All of that was just consistently coming back and driving me more and more angry, because I felt I had a nice little grasp on the truth, and I was clinging to that shred of truth in the midst of that time, in that mass psychosis, when the subconscious and the collective conscious and subconscious of the entire world, remember that, the entire globe, everyone, the theme was fear. Fear, not knowing what was going to happen. Fear for your loved ones in whatever shape or form, whether you were believing all the hype and that, you could kill 5 elderly people if you just went outside without a mask. If you were on that level, it's fear. If you were on my level and could see through the scam, you're fearing for the mental state of your loved ones. Is like, what is this level of propaganda and fear and manipulation? Like, what's this going to do to these people long term? You know, and what's going to happen when the vaccine comes around? Like, you know, how can we convince them to not take it? All this, you know, it's a lot to bear. It was a lot to bear. Even the most sane people during that time really had it. It was like standing in a sandstorm, and it doesn't matter what way you turn, you're just getting blasted, eroded away down to the core. You know, you're clinging to the truth of your core being, knowing that you can't lie to yourself because you have the truth. No matter what's playing out around you, you know, you have yourself. You're the truth, not this. I'm not into this, you know, everyone's truth is different. I was like, you have the truth, the only truth. Whatever way you perceive that is up to you. But yeah, so I left the country against all guidelines and rules and all this perceived mandatory behaviour that they had imposed with emergency laws and all this stuff. They're like, you can't go near the airport, or if we find you within 5 kilometres of the airport, we're going to charge you €2,000 fine and possibly prison time. You know, you can't, you know. I was like, why can't I go to the airport? So I went online and I found out which countries are letting people in. And there was a few back in early 2021, mostly kind of third world countries who were like, oh, we hope we get some fucking tourists because we're not getting help from the government here. When our entire economy is shut down, we're staying open for the tourists. And so I went to Nepal, the Himalayas. I very, very much sadly got a PCR test which allowed me to fly. But yeah, I went to the airport on the bus. There was bus. We weren't allowed to go to the airport or you would be arrested and fined, but you could just jump on your local bus, travel all the way across the country and go to the airport without being stopped by police. There was no checkpoints across 250 miles across the entire country. The police weren't checking. There was 1 or 2 at the terminal when the bus arrived. They didn't pay any attention to who was on the bus. So I took my rucksack and went in and did pretty much all the normal sort of things with a bit extra documentation as was needed at the time for travelling. And yeah, flew to Nepal. And it was like getting out of prison. There was no lockdown in Nepal at the time. I remember I got on a bus and there was people, you know, spitting out the window, coughing openly. There was a goat on the bus. There was boxes of chickens, you know, on the bus. And I was like, this is brilliant. You know, it was like life continues on as normal in a sort of a third world, mostly rural farmer type country, with some cities. But yeah, total chalk and cheese, night and day difference. You know, people wear masks in Nepal, but that's because of the dust that's created by being at the foot of giant fucking mountains. So yeah, but I ended up staying in Nepal for a long time, over a year, until the lockdowns were finished. The Ukraine war started, COVID just disappeared. Everyone got vaccinated and Yeah, the whole time I was just, there's nothing I can do. I can't convince anyone not to take vaccines. I'm just going to sit here, watch it play out. If I have to stay here forever, if this lockdown never ends, which, that was the uncertainty at the time. It's like, is this going to end? And it eventually became apparent that they just wanted to vaccinate as many people as possible. And then the Ukraine war started and it all just came to a close, sort of, what was summertime of 2022. So it was over 2 years of it consistently. So if you made it through that, give yourself a pat on the back. If you're sane, give yourself 2 pats on the back. If you're not quite so sane, give yourself 3 pats on the back, because you're still here and you have the truth of it all. What I'm just saying is information, my own experience and information. But it's how you perceive it. The truth is it's there for everyone. So yeah, so I went back to my country, and yeah, it was kind of okay for a little while, a short while, and then yeah, I started seeing the effects that that all that time had on people, including myself. I smoked a lot of cannabis for those 2 years. I mean, a lot. Like I said, Nepal, it's super cheap. It's super available. I was smoking like minimum half ounce per day. Making hash oil, taking hash oil, and just to sort of try and numb out the all the stuff I was going through, which was actually exacerbating it in the long run. But yeah, but I had stopped alcohol back in 2020, so I'm approaching my 6th year alcohol free now. It's kind of interesting because the alcohol caused me to be depressed a lot back over the years, on and off, like bouts of severe depression, mostly alcohol, but I wasn't too psychotic. But then when I got off the alcohol, I was smoking more weed, and although I haven't been depressed at all since I quit alcohol, I've had psychotic episodes and symptoms. And now I'm 2 years cannabis free, and yeah, the psychosis it has taken on a new form. Whatever it is, I'm dealing with it from totally sober. No meds, no illegal drugs. I do smoke cigarettes, I do drink coffee, I do use my phone too much. But yeah, a complete turnaround really from the way I was for most of my life. More than pretty much half my life was drunk or stoned or something. So yeah, so a few months, and then yeah, I became super angry. People were not listening to me. People were getting vaccinated. People were not listening to the truth, or at least my version of it. In hindsight, I don't really blame them. That whole period was so traumatizing for people, as it was, that actually, trying to reveal to them the real monsters behind all that, the orchestrators of that scam. It's just not. It's not something that the average brain is able to comprehend. It takes kind of years of putting the pieces together. Following the trails, following the money, deciphering between which conspiracy theory has any relevance and which might be part of the actual tapestry involved there, and all that. It's just for the normies, as we call them, who'd never had a conspiracy theory, who just did their jobs and paid their taxes and raised their families and never thought outside the box. You know, they're just not ready to see that side of reality. Do you know what I mean? It's just, unless you're the sort of person who's interested in that kind of thing, and follow it up, and, you know, maybe try and spread a bit of awareness about it, or just chat among your friends, whatever it is. Yeah, so confronted with a lot of people like that. A lot of people who got vaccinated, who I was surprised got vaccinated. And